For my first big adventure trip, I've made a few key mods to the 450MT. First, I swapped the front sprocket from 14 to 15 teeth to handle long highway stretches. Then I added an AirHawk cushion and a seat cover for the actual comfort. Knowing I'll be heading into a dust terrain, I installed a pre-filter to keep the air intake clean. This one is fairly cheap to add and seems to do the trick from my research. And finally, I wrapped the bike in the fresh new decals, partly for the look, partly for the good luck. Now with everything almost ready, it was time to load up the luggage and take the bike for the final shakedown ride before the big trip. I picked the Wombane Cave Road for the test, a scenic road just a few hours south of Scenic. The ride starts with an over on the highway, then winds through country roads into a mountain pass, before turning into a tight dirt track with ruts and loose rocks. It's a perfect testing ground for all the new mods and my luggage setup. The road begins easy enough with plenty of titans on the descent. The surface is sealed at first, while the 21-inch front wheel can feel a bit awkward in the sharp corners. It is still manageable. Eventually, the pavement gave way to the dirt, and I've reached the Goodman's Ford. Officially, the road beyond this bridge is closed, leading to Wombane Cave, but there's no actual roadblock, and locals, along with another adventure rider, still using it regularly. Now the real fun begins. I ease it into the off-road mode, adjusting both the bike and myself into the terrain. Right away, I've noticed the loss of lower end torque from the 15-tooth sprocket. As expected, I'm relying on the second gear a lot. Third gear revs too low for uphill climbs, forcing me to keep the RPMs high in the second to maintain the confidence. On the slow uphill turns, I sometimes has to drop to the first gear, which feels a bit sketchy. The road itself is more challenging than I remember. Last time I was here, I was on my Husqvarna Sprocket 4.1, a much lighter but less off-road capable bike. Now the road conditions are worse, clearly unmaintained since the road closure. Big rocks are scattered everywhere, forcing me to pick my line carefully. One wrong move could send me off the side of the mountain. Then there are deep ruts, some stretching dozens of meters, randomly cutting across the trail. Definitely not something that I want to get stuck in. At this point, I'm not sure if I'm riding better or worse than before, until I spot a group of adventure riders on a much bigger bike. They are taking things slow, and I follow them a bit before noticing my water temperature gauge climbing from all the high rev in second gear. Time to pass and cool things down. A bad timing for myself though, the Jazz rider had a better line, leaving me with a mud pothole and a rough terrain on the left, but I was already committed, so I gained it in, dodging the deep ruts just to get ahead. I made it. That little spring was accelerating, probably gave the GS riders a bit of shock. On a road like this, all that actual power and weight can't be much of fun. Also the good news, the bust of the speed cooled the bike down, and more importantly, it boosted my confidence in the new setup. With the 15-tooth sprocket, the bikes rev lower in each gear, shifting the torque sweep point. To stay in the ideal power range in the third, I just need to ride a bit faster. It kind of reminds me of the KTM 390 engines. It's pretty useless at lower RPM, but come alive when you keep it screaming. The 450MT with the 15 tooth isn't quite as extreme, but it's definitely getting there. However, so far it hasn't let me down. There's no stalling, as long as I keep the ride range right. I have to keep reminding myself not to clutching in during mid-climb, or I will fry the clutch. The suspension is still a work in progress, especially with all the luggage adding over 20 kg to the bike. I've increased the preload front and rear and stiffened the compression. At the first, the ride was harsh over corrugation and potholes, but after dropping the tire pressures, things smoothed out significantly. The rear wheels stayed planted and getting traction much better now. That said, the bike does feel lower with all the weight at the back. I've got a 20-liter bag on the rear rack, a 10 and 15 pannier, 2 6-liter bag up front at the crash bar, and a 6-liter tank bag full of my camera gears. I also have to stop a few times just to check the straps and make sure nothing was shaking loose. Thankfully, everything held up. The dirt section from the bridge to Wombane Cave camping ground took about 30 minutes. On the way back, I feel way more confident and rode much faster than I coming in. Overall, I feel the bike is ready for the trip. The setup works just right. I was most worried about the 15-tooth sprocket, especially after hearing how bad it's supposed to be off-road, but it's turned out to be fine. Sure, if I'm doing single track or extreme terrain, I would stick with the stock 14-tooth, but for this kind of riding, the 15-tooth is just as good. I just need to push myself to ride a little bit faster, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. The sun is getting low now, and it's time to head home. I can't wait for the trip to begin. It's going to be epic. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for more adventure on the 450MT, and I will see you in the next one.